The Puma reached the edge of the lava field after sunrise, but before the day had fully taken hold. The air above the rocks still felt thin and deceptively cool, stirred by a light wind that carried no scent worth following. From a distance, the field looked inert. Dark, fractured stones spreading outward like frozen water. No movement, no sound, no visible threat. The danger was not on the surface. The Puma stopped at the boundary where soil gave way to basalt. Its front paws remained on packed earth, while its rear paws stayed anchored in scrub. It lowered its head and breathed in slowly, testing the air. There was no smoke, no sulfur, no immediate warning. That meant nothing. The heat here did not rise, it stayed below. The lava field was old, centuries old, but not dead. Beneath the hardened crust, pockets of warmth remained trapped where the flow had folded over itself. The surface cooled unevenly, forming plates and ridges separated by cracks that ran deeper than they appeared. The Puma knew this terrain, not intimately, but enough. It placed one paw forward onto the rock and paused. The basalt felt solid, rough against the pads. No immediate warmth registered. The Puma held the position, muscles engaged, weight distributed carefully so it could withdraw instantly if needed. The rock did not respond. It stepped fully onto the lava field. Movement slowed immediately. On soil, the Puma's body flowed forward almost without thought. Here, every step required confirmation. The surface was sharp in places, slick in others. Some sections rang faintly when weight shifted, stone settling against stone. Others absorbed sound completely. The Puma chose a route along a slightly raised ridge where the lava had cooled thicker and fractured less. These ridges were safer, but they also forced straighter movement, reducing options if something went wrong. It moved diagonally rather than directly across. Halfway in, the Puma stopped again. Not because it sensed prey, because it sensed inconsistency. A subtle change travelled through the pads of its forepaws. Not heat exactly, but softness where there should have been rigidity. The rock beneath was intact, but thinner. The crust flexed imperceptibly, absorbing pressure instead of returning it. The Puma withdrew its paw instantly. It adjusted its route several steps to the left, choosing a darker section where the rock looked denser, older. Here, the surface carried scars of erosion, signs of time, which meant cooling had been thorough. The Puma advanced again. Below the surface, heat remained trapped in irregular pockets. It did not radiate upward evenly. Instead, it waited beneath thin stone, dormant until weight or fracture allowed it to express itself. The Puma avoided cracks instinctively. Some were narrow enough to ignore, others widened suddenly, revealing depth without light. These gaps were not empty. They held warm air that smelled faintly mineral and dry, not burning, but wrong. The Puma crossed one such crack with a single, careful step, landing cleanly on the far side without breaking stride. It did not look down. Looking did not help here. Toward the center of the lava field, prey signs were minimal. Few animals crossed this place willingly. Those that did moved fast and alone, usually rodents cutting between rocky outcrops, or birds dropping briefly to feed before lifting away again. Hunting here was inefficient. The Puma was not hunting, it was crossing. A line of broken rock ahead marked the far edge of the field where scrub and young trees had begun reclaiming ground. That was the goal. Shortening distance between two usable territories without dropping down into a longer exposed route. The Puma paused once more as the sun climbed higher. The surface temperature above the lava rose quickly now, but still lagged behind the heat trapped below. The mismatch created false confidence. The rocks felt warm, but manageable. Then the Puma stepped onto a plate that should have been safe. The stone did not crack. It sagged. Just slightly. Enough. The Puma sprang backward immediately, landing where it had come from. The plate beneath its last step fractured a second later, collapsing inward with a dull sound. Hot air escaped briefly from below, not visible, but unmistakable. The heat had stayed hidden until pressure forced it out. The puma stood motionless, heart rate elevated but controlled. It watched the broken section for several seconds, noting how quickly the opening cooled once exposed. This was the real danger. Not fire, not eruption. Delay. The puma rerouted again, choosing a longer path along the edge rather than risking the center. This cost time and energy, but preserved certainty. When it finally reached solid ground on the far side, it did not stop immediately. It walked several more body lengths onto soil and vegetation before slowing, letting its body recalibrate to ground that responded honestly. Behind it, the lava field remained unchanged in appearance. Still, dark, silent. Nothing marked the near mistake. No smoke, no glow, only a fractured plate cooling slowly beneath the surface. The puma did not look back. It did not need to. The lesson had already been taken into the body, where the heat stayed, and how long it waited. The land surrounding the lava field was not empty. It was careful. Vegetation grew unevenly here, shaped not only by altitude and rainfall, but by the legacy of heat beneath the rock. Shrubs clustered where soil had accumulated in pockets between flows. Young trees leaned away from darker stone, their roots seeking cooler ground. Animals followed the same logic. The puma moved along the margin where basalt gave way to earth, tracing a narrow band of usable habitat. This edge was productive, but only briefly and only at certain hours. Prey did not linger. Small mammals used the area as a crossing point, not a destination. Deer passed through quickly, heads high, muscles tense, never stopping to graze for long. Even birds fed cautiously, dropping down for seconds at a time before lifting off again. The puma felt the pressure immediately. Hunting here required precision without redundancy. There were fewer second chances. A failed attempt meant long relocation rather than quick reset. It slowed its pace, not out of fatigue, but calculation. The puma chose a position where a shallow ravine cut through hardened lava rubble, collecting cooler air and sparse vegetation. Tracks crossed here more often than elsewhere. The ground responded honestly, compressed when stepped on, silent when still. The puma waited. Waiting near the lava field was different from waiting elsewhere. Heat radiated unevenly as the day progressed, altering air currents unpredictably. Scent did not behave consistently. It pooled in some moments, vanished in others. The puma adjusted its breathing, testing the air repeatedly. It relied less on scent now, more on sound and vibration. A lizard moved across stone nearby, claws clicking faintly. The puma ignored it. Time passed, then heavier movement. A deer appeared at the far end of the ravine, stepping cautiously, pausing often. Its body language was alert but not panicked. It was using the ravine as cover while moving between feeding areas. The puma lowered itself. Muscles engaged silently. Distance was moderate, not ideal, but workable if the strike was clean. The puma began its approach. Every step was deliberate. It avoided loose stones, chose packed soil where erosion had exposed firmer ground. The ravine walls masked movement, but also limited angle. The deer stopped suddenly, not because it saw the puma, because the ground beneath it felt wrong. One hoof shifted on a warm patch of soil, the heat rising unexpectedly through thin earth above old flow. The deer reacted instantly, leaping sideways. The puma launched. The strike closed most of the distance, but not all. The deer bolted uphill, choosing steeper ground over uncertainty near the lava margin. The puma pursued briefly, then stopped. The chase was already inefficient. Heat increased quickly with exertion here. The puma's body recognized the cost faster than hunger could override it. It watched the deer disappear into scrub farther upslope, then withdrew back into shadow. The hunt had failed, not due to speed or timing, but because the ground itself had disrupted both predator and prey. That mattered. As afternoon heat increased, the puma moved less. It shifted into a shaded outcrop where basalt slabs stacked tightly, allowing air to circulate beneath. The stone here was cooler, older, stable. From this refuge, the puma observed. Human presence was distant but detectable. A faint echo of voices carried across the field once. Metal clicked against stones somewhere beyond view. These sounds did not intrude directly, but they reinforced avoidance. Animals avoided unpredictability. The lava field radiated it. As evening approached, activity increased slightly. Prey moved again, timing their crossings to cooler air and lower thermal contrast. The puma adjusted accordingly, repositioning closer to vegetation where soil buffered heat. One hunt succeeded. A smaller deer crossed too close to the edge, moving fast, misjudging distance. The puma intercepted cleanly, using a strip of compacted ground that held firm under acceleration. The kill was efficient, quick. The puma fed immediately, dragging the body away from rock and into soil. Eating on lava was not an option. Heat rose through stone even after sunset, lingering long after air cooled. As darkness settled, the puma rested nearby, conserving energy, remaining alert. The meal restored strength, but not surplus. Living near the lava field meant constant calculation. Nothing here was wasted. Nothing was easy. The puma did not leave the area that night, but it adjusted its mental map again. The lava field was not just a barrier, it was a force that shaped movement, timing, and error even beyond its edges. The heat stayed below, but its influence reached farther than the rock itself. The first human route appeared quietly, not as a road, not even as a trail, just a line of repeated confidence. The puma detected it from the far side of the lava field, where scrub thinned and basalt rose closer to the surface. The line was subtle, stones scuffed clean of dust, soil compacted into a faint ribbon that caught light differently at certain angles. No scent lingered strongly yet. That meant it was recent, and repeated. Humans had crossed here more than once. They had chosen a route that felt safe. The logic was simple and flawed. The surface looked solid, the plates wide and unbroken, the ground level enough to walk without watching every step. From above, it appeared sensible. From a distance, it looked permanent. The puma did not approach. It watched. Human movement carried weight differently than animals. It compressed rather than tested. Where animals distributed force and adjusted mid-step, humans committed fully, trusting what they saw. That trust reshaped the ground. The route crossed a section of lava where the crust was thickest, but bordered areas where thin plates hid heat beneath. The pressure of repeated steps did not collapse these sections immediately. It weakened them slowly, invisibly. This was worse. The puma tracked the change over days. More people came, not many. Enough. They followed the same line, reinforcing it with each pass. The surface hardened where they stepped, dust ground into cracks, edges polished by boots. The path grew clearer, more convincing. Animals noticed. Deer avoided it entirely, crossing farther downslope where footing was worse but predictable. Smaller mammals darted across at night, never lingering. Birds adjusted their landing patterns, avoiding the line during daylight. The puma understood before any of them why. The path removed uncertainty, but only on the surface. Beneath it, heat remained. One afternoon, sound carried across the field. Voices, laughter, the scrape of gear against stone. Humans were closer now, stopping along the route, resting where the ground looked flat and reliable. The puma shifted its position upslope, choosing a vantage point among older rock where erosion had already done its damage. From here, it watched the route directly. A man stepped off the path briefly, placing weight onto a darker plate that looked identical to the rest. Nothing happened immediately. He stood, adjusted his pack, then stepped back. Several seconds later, the plate fractured. Not violently. It sagged, cracked, then dropped inward with a dull sound, releasing a wave of warm air that rose briefly before dissipating. The man froze, startled, then moved away quickly. The path remained. The lesson did not spread. The puma noted how long it took for the ground to respond. Delay again. Heat here did not warn. It waited. That evening, the puma altered its hunting routes for the third time since crossing the lava field. The human path had cut across a corridor the puma used occasionally, never ideal, but functional. Now it was avoided completely, not because of humans, because the ground beneath them was becoming unreliable. Repeated compression changed stress patterns in the lava crust. Plates that once distributed weight evenly now focused it along hairline fractures. What held yesterday might not hold tomorrow, even without heat rising. The puma encountered this once at dusk. It stepped onto a section adjacent to the human route, not on it, but near enough that the structure had been affected. The surface felt firm. The puma transferred weight cautiously. The stone shifted, not down, but sideways. The puma recovered instantly, stepping back, but the message was clear. The path's influence extended beyond its visible edges. That night, the puma rested farther upslope than usual. Below, human lights moved briefly along the route, then vanished. The path cooled quickly on the surface, radiating calm. Below that, heat stayed where it always had. Over the following week, the route became known. More humans used it. Some marked it with stacked stones, believing they were helping. The markers fixed attention to a line that should have remained temporary. The desert adjusted around it. Wind filled smaller scars elsewhere. Animal movement concentrated in rougher ground. The lava field became more segmented, not by fences or barriers, but by expectation. The puma adapted by reducing crossings. It no longer treated the lava field as a shortcut. It became a boundary instead, one crossed only when necessary, only at night, only along older edges where heat had long since dissipated. Hunting success stabilized again, but at a cost. Routes were longer, energy margins thinner. The human path remained. It looked safe. It felt safe until it wouldn't. The puma did not wait to see when that would happen. It moved where the ground told the truth immediately, where mistakes were loud, not delayed. Behind it, the path lay quiet under starlight, holding warmth beneath dark stone, promising stability to those who trusted what they saw. The heat stayed below, and the danger stayed patient.